Welcome back, everybody. It's Andrew here, and welcome back to our channel. We've got some huge updates for seniors regarding the next stimulus package, potential stimulus checks for seniors, and Chuck Schumer saying that he plans to bring this package to a vote tomorrow on January 3rd. So let's discuss the details, what we expect to happen next. But before we do me a quick favor, hit like, hit subscribe, and share this channel with anyone who you think might find this helpful. This is a community for seniors, and my job here is to be a voice for you and be a voice for seniors to make sure President Biden keeps his promises to increase Social Security benefits, increase SSI and SSDI, and even approve stimulus checks for seniors in this next stimulus package. Specifically, the $1,000 to $2,000 check that Bernie Sanders is trying to include in the package. So thank you so much for being a part of our community. And if you really want to support our work, subscribe to my second channel. On that channel, we're going to have some updates as well, but we're also going to play games like bingo. We can play bingo together. It's going to be a fun community. So the link to that is going to be in the comments of this video. And you can also become a member of this channel. Now, when you become a member, you just have to go to my YouTube channel page, and right here in the middle, you're going to see a button that says join. Now, when you join, you're going to give a monthly donation, and that's going to support my work and allow me to do this full time. And I'll also give you shout outs. So my members always get a shout out on my video, and it gives you priority response to comments. So if you become a member, there's basically a 100% chance I'm going to be responding to your comments. So thank you so much for supporting my work. Now, with that said, let's jump right into today's update. Now, at this point, all of you know Bernie Sanders is trying to include a $1,000 to $2,000 debit card for seniors in this next stimulus package. Now, although this is a debit card, it's basically a stimulus check. Same thing, and really it would be accepted anywhere that Visa is accepted. And January 3rd is a huge date when it comes to the stimulus package, and that happens to be tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this video. Now, if you look on your screen, these blue colored dates, that means that the Senate is back in session. They had their 2 weeks off, and now they're set to come back on January 3rd and spend the entire week trying to get the stimulus package done. And then these yellow colored dates mean the House is back in session as well. So that means that if the Senate gets it done this first week, the House will be back the week afterwards and potentially be able to fully pass that stimulus package. Now, January 3rd specifically is a big date because Chuck Schumer said himself that immediately on January 3rd, when they come back, he is going to vote on a revised version of the House passed Build Back Better stimulus package, and he said we will keep voting on it until something gets done. On your screen is actually a letter Chuck Schumer wrote, and he said that we are going to vote on a revised version of the House passed Build Back Better stimulus package on January 3rd, and we will keep voting on it until something gets done. So this is a date that Chuck Schumer has set. Now, do we expect this to happen? Well, quite frankly, I'd give this a 50-50 chance. I've been covering these things for the last 2 years, and usually when they set these dates, they don't quite hit them, but they get close, right? So it's going to happen most likely by the end of this week. He set the date as January 3rd, but either way, it's going to be happening in the next few days. Now, will Chuck Schumer get Joe Manchin on board? We'll have to wait and see. The only way that's going to get done is if he cuts some sort of deal with Joe Manchin. And one thing that's been happening lately is there's been rumors that Mitt Romney might actually be willing to work with Democrats to get a deal done on this stimulus package. Now, Mitt Romney has said he is willing to do a bipartisan piecemeal deal, meaning they cut out the monthly checks for families and do that on their own, and then do the stimulus package without that, which in theory could bring the budget down for the stimulus package just enough to get Joe Manchin on board. That's the main thing he's worried about. Joe Manchin's worried about inflation, and he's worried about the overall cost of the package, especially because he thinks families with kids, quite frankly, are getting too much stimulus. Now, another silver lining to that situation would be if they carved out the monthly stimulus checks for families, took that out, did a piecemeal deal with Mitt Romney, that would then leave more funding potentially for the stimulus checks for seniors, right? This is something Bernie Sanders is still fighting for. He's pitching the $1,000 debit card for seniors to help them pay for medical expenses, and some groups are pushing for as high as $2,000. So January 3rd is just around the corner. Chuck Schumer has vowed to bring the package to a vote. We have a potential deal with Joe Manchin where if we take out the monthly payments for kids, and do a piecemeal deal with Mitt Romney, that could potentially get us to a place where the stimulus package gets done in the next couple of weeks. Of course, we'll have to wait and see. The congressional calendar shows that the Senate will be back in session January 3rd, and the House will be back a week later on January 10th. So, in theory, we could get the stimulus package done by the second week of January. Quite honestly, that's a bit optimistic. The most likely scenario is we'll probably have it approved sometime in either February or the middle of March. That's kind of based off of everything we know and based off of the previous packages and how long they took. That is a more likely outcome. Now, Democrats are trying to get this stimulus package done. They're still pushing forward, specifically not only to help the American people, but also because this year, now in 2022, there's going to be a lot of midterm elections in both the House and the Senate. Now, Democrats are trying to maintain control, as even if they just lose one seat in the Senate, they're going to lose their majority control, and they can only afford to lose 4 seats in the House before they lose their majority in the House as well. So a lot of experts are saying that the reason the stimulus checks are actually being delayed is because they prefer to approve them closer to these elections. They did the same thing earlier or last year with the Georgia Senate runoff seats. They promised a third stimulus check. They won both of those seats, and then they delivered a third stimulus check. Governor Newsom did this in California as well. So some experts are thinking that they're actually using Joe Manchin as a scapegoat, have him delay the stimulus checks, and then they will pass them right before the elections or right after to help them win those elections, just like they did in Georgia and just like they did in California. Now, this would be frustrating because they'd purposely be delaying the checks, but although at the end of the day, at least we would still get them. Now, the stimulus package is one thing that is expected to have a massive impact on these 2022 elections, which will have a massive impact on future packages, as that will decide if Democrats still hold a supermajority or not. So if Democrats maintain control, there's a higher chance they'll approve even more stimulus packages going forward in 2023 and 2024. If Democrats lose their majorities, President Biden will essentially be a sitting duck president where he'll be in the White House, but then they'll have Republicans controlling either the House or the Senate, or potentially both chambers, which would create gridlock for the next couple of years until the presidential election in 2024. So some things that are going to affect this election will be the stimulus package, whether or not stimulus checks for seniors get approved, the fact that Democrats are trying to address voting rights. They might even change the filibuster rule to allow them to approve stimulus packages without a single Republican vote, without even having to use budget reconciliation. And they're also addressing immigration and the student loan crisis. President Biden extended the student loan freeze until May, and some experts think that he's actually considering canceling some amount of student loan debt to help them win these elections in 2022. So these are the issues at hand. And folks, if you'd like to stick around, first of all, don't forget to subscribe. I will keep you updated. We should have a lot of updates this week, as Chuck Schumer has promised to bring the package to a vote, and we might have a potential deal with Mitt Romney to get this stimulus package done. So don't forget to subscribe. I will keep you posted. We should have a lot of updates this week. And just a quick reminder, if you really want to support our work, become a channel member. All you have to do is go to my YouTube channel page, click the join button in the middle of the page, or you could click the link that's in the comments of this video. So with that said, this video clip here does a really good job of describing everything going on and what they expect to affect the midterm elections in 2022. This includes the stimulus package, potential stimulus checks for seniors, and things like the student loan crisis and reforming immigration. So if you'd like to stick around, let's take a quick look, see what they had to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.
After a tumultuous year in 2021, 2022 will be an even busier one in politics. The Senate returns next week with a lot on its plate, especially 2 major parts on President Biden's agenda. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has promised a vote on the Build Back Better bill, despite filibuster-loving Joe Manchin's opposition. He has also promised to take up voting rights in the first 2 weeks of the new year and signaled that he would force a change in Senate rules to overcome Republican obstruction. Democrats are also considering how to tackle immigration after an effort to include protections was cut from the Build Back Better bill. And while President Biden recently extended the student loan payment, excuse me, with the pandemic extending into a third year, advocates and some of our bank accounts want to see Congress make good on promises to cancel student loan debt in the new year. Excuse me. I promise everyone this is not a COVID cough. It just went down the wrong type. Apologies. All of this will undoubtedly have a huge impact on the looming midterm elections, with several high-stake governor's races and control of Congress on the line. Back with me are Adrienne Elrod, Tim Miller, and Eugene Daniels. You guys, I promise this is not a COVID cough. It's just live TV, folks, and I inhaled the wrong way. Anyway, thank you guys for being back and bearing with me through that challenging read. All right. So coming up, Eugene, I want to ask you first, because there's a lot happening in politics. I'm curious your take on what is the political headline of 2022 that has yet to be written, my friend.
Yeah, that's a tough one. One of my editors or me ends up writing it. I think the thing is going to be whether Democratic leaders really listen to their voters and listen to advocates within their party saying things like, just like you said, getting rid of the filibuster or figuring out a way to carve out a voting rights exception in the filibuster to get voting rights done, and whether or not Joe Manchin or whether or not other Democrats actually accept what Joe Manchin is willing to give them on Build Back Better. Those are the two things that are going to be able to get done if Democrats want them to, right? That is a strong, that is going to depend on President Biden pushing Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema on the filibuster. Kyrsten Sinema, I think right now, is the staunchest advocate for the filibuster in the Democratic Party. And then you have how much the members of Congress are going to finally get together and figure out what happens with Build Back Better. Those are the biggest things that are going to happen for the country for this year, right? Whether or not the voting rights acts get done, because you have people starting to vote in the primaries coming up just in a few months. And that's going to be something really interesting for folks to watch.
Tim, what do you got? What do you think the political headline that we have yet to read will be? And maybe you'll write the political headline. Who knows?
As far as what the big headline, I think, for 2022 that hasn't been written yet, I think that the Democrats are going to end up getting past a version of BBB that might hopefully be better politically. It might not be as good as on policy as every progressive activist wants, but something that is more tangible, more stripped down. Whether it's either the universal pre-K provision, whether it's parental leave, prescription drug costs provision on insulin, a couple things like that, and paying for it with increased taxes. I think that they are going to on the wealthy. I think that they are going to get a deal on that. I think there's a lot of pessimism about this right now, but I would look to the spring and think that there'll be something that's a little bit smaller but easier to sell that the Democrats can pass in 2022.
Tim, you are quite the optimist on the panel this evening, and I don't know if people will be excited.
It's New Year's.
I don't know if as many people will be excited about a watered-down BBB, because you have to wonder, right? Well, because when it kicks back to the House, will the progressives vote for it? So we'll see. We'll keep our eye on it. Adrienne, what do you think? What's the big political headline that awaits us in 2022?
Well, I'm going to try to compete with Tim to be the most optimistic person on the panel tonight. I think the headline that is going to be written in the very near future is Democrats passed historic once-in-a-generation legislation. And I think that is going to be Build Back Better. And Tiffany, I completely agree with you. I mean, I wish we were looking at a $6 trillion bill, which is what, progressives pushed and what, many in the party embraced to start off with. But even if we pass something in the $1.4 trillion range, we're still looking at some very historic pieces and provisions of legislation that are going to have a dramatic impact on the lives of American families. Hopefully that will include a 10-year extension of the child tax credit. That's still, of course, being debated. We'll see what Senator Manchin comes down on that. But some of these climate provisions are going to have dramatic impacts. Expanded pre-K so that every child in America, no matter if their socioeconomic or purely economic background, can get expanded childcare, pre-K access, expanded childcare access so that parents can actually go back to work and not worry about who's going to take care of their kid. There's a lot of great things in that legislation. But I completely agree with you. I hope that we don't let perfect be the enemy of the good and that this ends up getting passed. I wish we were looking at something bigger. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, whatever we pass is going to be historic, and it's going to be something that we haven't seen in pass in Congress in several decades, and that's going to be a big thing and a good thing for the American people.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like a lot of the coverage this year was focused on how much this plan costs. And I think that matters to maybe inside the Beltway people. But American people across this country are not interested in how much it costs. They have their own household debt to worry about. They want to know what policy is going to impact their lives tomorrow. So we'll see what happens with Build Back Better. It should be quite an interesting thing. I will tell you guys, I am worried a political headline might be about a more contagious, infectious, highly virulent variant coming along. Despite my cough, I promise I am okay. But I think it's, just a really scary thing to navigate this virus. So knock on wood, that will not happen.